Did you know that the story of Dracula was based on a real person and that the Muslims defeated him in battle? You see, in the early 1400s, this is what the Ottoman Empire looked like. And to the north, you had this tiny little country called Wallachia, which had gained independence from the Austrians about 100 years ago. However, this caused a lot of problems, seeing as they were a tiny country sitting between two empires. So in 1415, they picked a side and joined the Ottomans. The Ottomans agreed to protect them and allow them to keep their independence as long as they paid a tax called jizya and pledged their allegiance. At some point, the Ottomans and the Austrians ended up in battle, and the Ottomans were defeated, and there was some suspicion that the Wallachian prince may have provided some information to the Austrians that helped them to win the battle. And it didn't help that the prince had close ties with the Order of the Dragon, an organization dedicated to the destruction of the Ottoman Empire. So the prince was summoned to the Ottoman Sultan to demonstrate his loyalty along with two of his sons. In the end, the prince was allowed to return to Wallachia, but his two sons Vlad and Radu had to remain in the Ottoman Empire, where they would be raised and schooled with children of royalty. And one of the Ottoman children who attended the same school as Vlad and Radu was Mehmed II, who would later grow up to conquer Istanbul. Anyway, back in Wallachia, more fighting was going on between the two superpowers, and eventually the prince got assassinated, and his two sons Vlad and Radu were allowed to leave the Ottoman Empire and travel back to Wallachia to take the throne. With the help of the Ottoman Empire, Vlad managed to take control of Wallachia, but only briefly. Once again, the Hungarians pushed into Wallachia and Vlad fled back to the Ottomans. And it was around this time that Mehmed II, who I had mentioned had gone to the same school as Vlad, had now become the new sultan. And in 1453, in one of the most important and consequential battles in Muslim history, he led his army to the gates of Istanbul, the last bastion of the Roman Empire, and defeated them. And from then on, he would be known as Fatih Sultan Mehmed, conqueror. It was a monumental achievement by the Muslims, and it sent shockwaves into Europe. And one of the people who had joined the Ottoman Empire and helped make it happen was Radu, the other son of the Wallachian prince, Vlad's younger brother. But Vlad was watching all of this and decided to take another path in life. He made a secret deal with the Hungarians that if they would give him Wallachia, he would betray the Ottomans and attack them. So he returned to Wallachia, this time under the protection of the Hungarians, and he began his reign of terror. He killed indiscriminately soldiers, civilians, men, women, and children, the old, the young. He imprisoned and tortured and much, much more. One of his favorite methods of killing was to fix long stakes into the ground with spikes pointed up, and he would then throw people onto them, impaling them. And this was why they called him Vlad the Impaler. But Vlad actually gave himself another name. Since his father had been a member of the Order of the Dragon, he was given the title Dracul, meaning dragon in Romania. And his children, most importantly his son Vlad, called themselves Dracula, which is most likely where the original author of Count Dracula got his inspiration from. And now Mehmed the Conqueror had set his sights on him. Eventually, Dracula and Mehmed met at the Battle of Targovishte, and Vlad managed to catch him by surprise in a night attack. But because he was outnumbered, he had to quickly retreat. The Ottomans were now hot on his tail, following him until they came across a horrific sight. A field with thousands of stakes, each with a person impaled on it. It was a forest of the impaled. Mehmed continued to pursue Dracula, and he was forced to flee to Hungary. And while he was in Hungary, Dracula was actually imprisoned for 14 years, but the prince who imprisoned him never actually gave an explanation as to why. The Hungarians may have distrusted him or thought he was too weak or too cruel, or maybe they were afraid he was unable to be controlled. But eventually, after those years, he was released and sent back to Wallachia. And that's when the Ottomans came back for the last time and got their revenge. Vlad Dracula was defeated in battle and beheaded in 1477, around the same time that his brother Radu had died peacefully as a Muslim in the palaces of Istanbul. Two brothers who chose two very different paths in life. Like and follow for more Muslim facts.